The Leadership in Law podcast is powered by Law Marketing Zone. Transform your firm's digital presence with expert marketing solutions tailored exclusively for attorneys at lawmarketingzone.com.
Welcome to the Leadership in Law podcast with host Marilyn Jenkins. Cut through the noise, get actionable insights and inspiring stories delivered straight to your ears. Your ultimate podcast for navigating the ever-changing world of law firm ownership. In each episode, we dive deep into the critical topics that matter most to you, from unlocking explosive growth to building a thriving team. We connect you with successful firm leaders and industry experts who share their proven strategies and hard-won wisdom. So, whether you're a seasoned leader or just starting your journey as a law firm owner, the Leadership in Law podcast is here to equip you with the knowledge and tools you need to build a successful and fulfilling legal practice.
Welcome to another episode of the Leadership in Law podcast. I'm your host, Marilyn Jenkins. Please join me in welcoming my guests, father-son asset protection attorneys Garrett and Ted Sutton, to the show today. Garrett and Ted are a legal powerhouse from Reno, Nevada. Garrett has spent over 35 years helping entrepreneurs and investors protect their assets through smart corporate structures. He's Robert Kiyosaki's go-to legal advisor, best-selling author of 11 books, including Start Your Own Corporation, and has sold over 1 million copies of his work. His company, Corporate Direct, has been forming LLCs and corporations in all 50 states since the beginning. Joining him is his son, Ted, a junior partner and asset protection attorney who's carrying forward the family's mission. Ted specializes in getting business owners set up right from day one so they're never personally on the hook when things go sideways. He's always leading the charge on helping businesses navigate the new Corporate Transparency Act. Together, they built Corporate Direct into the place entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and digital asset investors go when they want bulletproof legal protection without the typical law firm headaches. Wow, I am excited to have you here, guys.
Thanks, Marilyn. Good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Absolutely. I would love to hear more. I usually say let's start with your leadership journey, but let's talk about your journey as a father-son running the team.
I'll start since I'm older. Went to law school in San Francisco, and I always liked corporate law. And I didn't like the big city either. So I moved up to Reno because I like skiing. I like Lake Tahoe. And Nevada's a great place for corporations and LLCs. So I continued the practice up here, became very fortunate to become associated with Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he asked me to write books in his series, which I have. And his coattails have allowed me to sell a lot of books, Marilyn. It's been great. And we've traveled the world talking about financial education, and parents really want their kids to know about financial education. That has been a real lesson for me. And I moved to Reno single, got married, had Ted, my oldest child, and he was interested in coming into the business, and it just made sense. And so he's taking it over. I'm going to be around for another 7 years or so. But then after that, it's all his. It's been a great journey. It's great to have my son by my side. The staff likes it because I'm not selling the business. We're going to just keep the business going. So everybody likes that continuity.
Yeah, succession planning. Absolutely. It's so underappreciated, I think. So that's fantastic. And Ted, did you want to add to that? Your turn.
Yeah, I think so. As my dad moved up here, he met my mom, had me. And I went to college and I actually got a degree in mining engineering. But the summer before I graduated, I worked at a mine in northern Chile in the middle of the Atacama Desert. I had a great time, but it made me realize I didn't want to work in a mine my entire career. It just wasn't for me. Loved a lot of the people, just wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. And after I graduated, I remember my dad and mom sat down with me and they said, "You're not finding work. What you could do is you could go to law school, get a law degree, and eventually take over my practice." And that just sounded like a much better option. And I decided to take that option, and I haven't looked back since. And I've been out of law school for about 3 years, and I've just been the backup quarterback, just learning all the asset protection playbooks and getting reps and all that. so far it's been really good, and eventually I'll take over the practice, and that's all because I'm very fortunate, and it's all because he laid the foundation for it.
Awesome. That's amazing. It's good that you found out you didn't like something before you actually dove all the way into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, because as you weren't graduated, and so you just continued. That was good to have internships. You get to find out if you like something or not.
Right. I think the biggest thing is you find out what you don't like. And for anyone in their early 20s who doesn't really know what to do, I think finding out what you don't like could be helpful because that could open a door to find something that you do.
Absolutely. Now, playing on that question, how did you set your system up or your company up to be able to do the succession planning?
The company is an S corporation, and Ted will be acquiring percentages of the company over a period of years. That's how the succession planning is working. It's a 10-year, essentially gifting a buy-in of the interest. So in 7 more years, he'll own 100%.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. All right. Great. Yeah. Because it's always interesting to know how do you make that work and make it not be a tax burden or any of those types of things. And of course, you guys would do it right because the attorney's doing it.
And you got to work with your CPAs, but certainly we're under the gift rules. So I can transfer the business to him.
Love that.
Yeah.
But thinking about that, what are the most expensive mistakes that you see new entrepreneurs make when it comes to their business structure?
Go ahead.
I think just not laying the proper foundation. I know I use that same analogy to describe my dad, but there's a lot of people that skip the important steps of getting your LLC and your corporation set up correctly. A lot of people just file the articles of organization or the articles of incorporation with the Secretary of State, but they don't take any additional steps like drafting an operating agreement, getting a registered agent, setting up a separate business bank account too. There's a lot of people who don't do that.
No, I thought those were required.
What?
I thought those were required. Is that not true?
Well, some people decide to operate their business banking through their personal account. And that's a really great way to have the corporate veil pierced. Yeah. I wrote a whole book on piercing the corporate veil. There are a lot of steps you have to take. The steps aren't hard. It's pretty easy to follow these corporate formalities, but it's pretty dramatic if you don't, because they can pierce through the corporate veil and get at your personal assets. So to Ted's point, entrepreneurs who think they can just go online and set up a corporation or an LLC very easily, we've seen the horror stories. There are people who think that they're properly set up, and when someone comes to pierce the corporate veil and they don't have the operating agreement, they don't have the separate bank account, it's pretty dramatic what can happen if they pierce the corporate veil on you.
That's amazing. So I'm in Texas, and so you're required to have a registered agent in Texas. So my assumption was, not knowing for real, that everybody had to have a registered agent. So
they do, but some people can be their own registered agent. You can list your home address as the registered agent address in Texas, for example. The problem is, you need to be there 8 to 5 to accept service of process. If you travel, if you're not at your home, they come by, they try and serve you, they can't reach you, and then they can go back into court and ask the judge for permission to publish notice in the newspaper of the lawsuit. And in the back with the legal notices, that little 2-point type, you're never going to get notice of a lawsuit. So then they can go back to court, say we tried to serve them at their registered agent address. They weren't there. We published notice in the newspaper. They didn't respond. And the court gives them a default judgment. But being your own registered agent, especially if you travel, is not a good idea. And so we provide that service in all 50 states.
Wow. Okay. So doing it wrong to start with is the most expensive mistake people make. Okay.
Yeah. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Getting your LLC set up right is the ounce of prevention. I know there's a lot of lawyers who listen in. Having an attorney on your team help you through that's really important, because if you get into trouble, you don't set it up right, you're going to pay a lot more money down the road as opposed to just finding counsel ahead of time.
And another thing we see, Marilyn, is that people will rely on their CPA to help them with the legal stuff. And I don't do tax returns, right? Don't ask me to do your taxes, but too many CPAs are providing legal services and they don't set up the LLC properly. They don't understand the nuances. So the joke we tell is CPA stands for cannot protect assets. I think you want a team. And that's what Robert Kiyosaki has always preached, is you have a team when you're in business or investing in real estate. And you need a CPA on your team and you need a lawyer on your team. You need them from the start.
I agree. So say I started out as myself, and when would be the time to improve that, change the structure? What would I look for that?
Your situation may have changed. You may have started with an LLC and you're growing, and maybe you need another LLC. Maybe you need a management company. A lot of times we get on the phone with people and just talk through the strategy. Maybe you need a management company taxed as an S corp so you can minimize payroll taxes. There are just a lot of strategies that we can help people with.
And so you just basically, if I'm looking at, there's an event coming up, maybe I don't know, grandchildren coming, whatever. Always a good time. It's like estate planning. It's a good time with anything changing in your life or your business to have a conversation with your attorney.
Correct.
Excellent.
And one of the few things that people overlook is the need for a trademark. If you're getting into business and you're going to be with a unique name you want to protect, at the start, you should really think about getting the trademark.
And I had good advice early on, and I was able to do that.
Good.
But it was a very long process, but in the end, we got it. Absolutely. So now we've got all of these businesses online. You've got influencers doing their own businesses, all the online businesses of all aspects. How has that changed your asset protection strategy?
I think with the creation of online businesses, it's a different line of work. One of the things I've noticed is that a lot of those people who have the online businesses are the ones that just don't really have a clue of how to properly set it up. I remember I was on the call with somebody who's a prominent influencer, and this person had a really big social media following, but he had no clue about anything that related to corporate law. So the principle is the same. You need to have an LLC in place to protect your online business, or if you have a prominent social media presence. But I think just setting it up in the right state is important. And also, having the operating agreement, having meeting minutes, having a separate bank account, having all these things is just really key. So it's the same principle. It just applies to different businesses.
So, because the barrier to entry for that social media influencer thing is so low, but it's still super important to get your ducks in a row when it comes to if you intend it to be a business.
And that's the other thing, Marilyn, is people will start out as a sole proprietor, right? They don't want to get involved with setting up an LLC or a corporation. And as a sole proprietor, you can take the same deductions, business deductions, as you can through an LLC or a corporation. It just flows onto your personal return. But the IRS audits sole proprietor businesses at a 5 times greater rate than LLCs and corporations. So
Really?
yeah, you make those deductions, but the IRS finds it low-hanging fruit. And from the IRS perspective, if you're not serious about your business, maybe you're playing some games there. If you're serious about your business, you're going to set up an LLC or a corporation. You're going to have a bookkeeper. You're going to do it right. But if you're operating as a sole proprietor and taking all these deductions, you can bet that the IRS is going to come looking at a far greater rate than they will if you operate properly through an LLC or a corporation.
5 times more. I didn't realize that. That is crazy. Wow. So you've explained the main reasons why we need to set up asset protection strategy, because it just seems so easy to trip up in the beginning and not even realize it until something comes up.
And the other thing, Marilyn, is you need to set up these asset protection strategies at the start. If you operate for the first couple of years as a sole proprietor and you get sued, they're reaching not only the assets of the sole proprietorship, but all your personal assets. So we want that LLC or corporation to create a barrier whereby someone suing the business can only get what's inside the business. They can't get beyond that to get to your personal bank account, the equity in your house, all your other assets.
Devastating.
Yeah, and we're a litigious society. Every third billboard is for a lawyer advertising in a wreck, get a check. And so you just need to set up the protection so that you are protected against what is a very litigious society that we live in.
And speaking of that, in the current climate, are you seeing any changes in how people approach asset protection?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think the biggest thing that I've seen is that there's a lot of fake influencers on social media who tell people certain things that aren't necessarily true. There's a lot of people who aren't properly licensed and they're giving legal advice and tax advice. And if you rely on that, you can get yourself into trouble. I think the biggest thing in the asset protection space is just a lot of the information that's out there that's not necessarily true. I think when it comes to that, you just need to listen to people who have the proper credentials and who listen to who are going to give proper sound advice that's going to protect you. So,
well, and an example of that, Marilyn, is the people who say that a living trust provides asset protection. And it doesn't. There's no asset protection with a living trust. You go into court, the judge says, okay, distribute the assets out of the living trust. And there are lawyers who say that the living trust offers asset protection, and we see them all the time, and you just have to laugh. But we're laughing, but their clients aren't, because when they get sued in their business, they lose everything. So you just have to be careful of what information you take in. And that's why I've written these 11 books, 8 of them part of the Rich Dad series, is to give the proper information to people. And they read my books and they get on a call and they're already on second base, ready to score. They've gained information that they can use and ask intelligent questions about further asset protection strategies. But you don't want to have to read 100 books, but if you pick up 1 or 2 books and learn about asset protection, the whys and the hows, I think that's useful for you.
I agree. I think your approach of teach first, then people come to you educated to even ask even better questions and be
Correct.
prepared for what they need to do.
Yep.
Now, it's interesting. So if I'm an LLC or an S Corp, what would be my next step that I would need to change? Would I go, depending if I want to sell shares, I want to take investors, then I would go up to a C Corp. When would I know if I need to change my step structure? Lost the word for a moment.
Hey, lawyers, are you losing cases to firms online that aren't even better attorneys than you? They're just better at marketing? Most law firms are nearly invisible online. If you're not showing up in the Google Map pack, if your ads aren't converting, or if you're constantly waiting on referrals, you're leaving money on the table. At Law Marketing Zone, we've helped clients go from 0 to over 20 cases a month. And we put our top strategies into a quick, free checklist, the Law Firm Marketing Fix. 10 ways to stop losing clients online. Download it right now for free. You'll discover the biggest mistakes most firms are making and how to fix them fast. Then, if you're ready, book a free strategy call and we'll walk through the gaps in your current marketing. Don't wait for referrals. Start attracting your ideal clients today. Click to get the checklist now.
So you've formed an LLC and you want to bring in investors, and that if you do it with just a couple family, friends, 3 or 4 people, maybe we don't need a securities attorney, you just need a subscription agreement. But if you're going to advertise for investors, you're going to need a securities attorney to do it right. And it can get expensive, but it needs to be done properly because the SEC does not have a sense of humor in these matters. You don't want to get in trouble, and good securities counsel is going to be their weight in gold. It's proper to have someone on your side who's going to get you through the rules and regulations of raising money from the public. Okay. So that would be a time to talk to a securities attorney. Now, if you start your LLC in Texas, and Texas, by the way, Maryland, has become pretty good with asset protection. It's one of the good states now. The Texas legislature is campaigning to be a corporate headquarters state. And
Oh.
their laws are rivaling Delaware and Nevada now. And the LLCs for asset protection are good in Texas. So let's say you set up a Texas LLC and you live in Texas, so that's good, but you want to do business in Oklahoma. You need to qualify to do business in Oklahoma, and we help clients with that all the time. So when you move operations or you're conducting new operations in a new state, it's time to talk to an advisor to get you properly registered in that new state.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, you had said something in our earlier conversation that you could hold real estate investments in an LLC or a corporation. Can you explain how we would do that? Because I know we
Sure.
can do that overseas. In some countries overseas, it's what it's designed. You'll never own real estate in your own name. You
Right.
buy a corporation off the shelf, and that's what holds it.
Right. But let's say you buy a property in Texas. You can hold title in your individual name, but if you've got tenants and they sue, they can sue who owns the property, which is Maryland, and they can reach all of your personal assets because you held it in your individual name. So what we do is we set up the Texas LLC, and hopefully at closing, when we transfer title from the seller to you, the buyer, we transfer it into the name of the Texas LLC.
Okay.
So when someone is looking to sue, they go to the county, they see that 124 Main Street is owned by a Texas LLC. That's who they have to sue. They can't sue you personally. And transferring title is easily done. It is a problem in Pennsylvania. They have a 2% transfer tax on any transfer. So you want to take title, if possible, in your LLC name right off the bat. So that's how to handle it. And then what we like to do is, let's say you have a Texas LLC and an Oklahoma LLC for an Oklahoma piece of real estate. We like to have those two LLCs owned by one Wyoming LLC, which gives good asset protection as well. There are arguments to be made that you would have to go after, if someone's coming after you after a car wreck, that's called the outside attack. They would have to sue the Wyoming LLC to get at the Oklahoma and Texas properties. So that's in our books, Loopholes of Real Estate. But those are some of the strategies that we employ, is the creative and proper use of LLCs to hold real estate title.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you keep them all separate and then under one umbrella. So that
Correct. Exactly right. Yep.
Okay. So we talked about online businesses and that sort of stuff. So another thing that's coming up and obviously getting larger and larger is cryptocurrency. So we buy crypto online. We might get a little offline safe for it or keep it in a wallet, in a software wallet. What are the steps that we need to take to protect that? Because those are just numbers in the system.
Right. No, and that's a great question. One way I like thinking of cryptocurrency is it's like holding title to stocks. And we have a lot of clients who have brokerage accounts. And so what they do is they set up an LLC for those stocks, and then they get a business brokerage account with an investment firm like Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, Schwab, all of those. So with crypto, it's the same principle. However, right now, it's a little bit like the Wild West, and there's a lot more regulations than you think. So to properly set up the crypto, the first thing you need to do is set up the LLC. It could be the same LLC that you use to hold title to your stocks, but you need to have an LLC in place. The second thing you need to do is that you need to set up a business account with a cryptocurrency trading platform. Now, some Kraken and I believe Coinbase it's actually very difficult to set these up because they require a lot of pieces of documentation before you can get your business account. However, I think crypto.com is much easier. They don't require as many things. So, you'll need to submit things like your operating agreement, driver's license, or a passport. And they'll also require a bunch of additional information about you and the business, the LLC that you use to trade crypto. The next thing you'll need to do is you'll also need to have a transfer agreement in place. And what this indicates is it shows that if you have any crypto in your individual name, you'll need to transfer it from your individual name into the LLC. And that transfer agreement will need to be notarized because that notary signature will act as a timestamp for when you transfer the crypto into your LLC. And that's really big because if you're personally sued in the future, that transfer agreement will show a court that title to the crypto is in your LLC. So it's behind that legal shield. And then after that, if you want to store it in a cold wallet or any other storage off of the blockchain, you can do that. But you need to have that LLC in place to get that protection that you need going forward.
So you're saying my investment account, so brokerage account, and crypto should be in separate LLCs to protect them.
You could do one or both.
I like having two. I like having one for the brokerage account and one for the crypto.
Yeah, I think the benefit to using one is that you don't have to set up two LLCs. And another thing is that when you set up a business bank account, a lot of banks don't like the fact that you're using it to trade crypto. So if you tell them that you're using it for investment purposes, that's more broad. And that can encompass both crypto and stocks. That could be the argument to doing one. But if you have a lot of assets and you want to put your pots of gold, you want to have two pots of gold instead of one big pot, that could be a strategy that you can employ too.
Okay, and so is the assumption that if you've got a brokerage account and you've set up the beneficiary, that's not sufficient to make sure your money goes where you want it to go if you pass?
That comes in more so with the trust. I suppose you could do it.
So I see. So the LLCs are protecting me from that piercing the corporate veil and someone getting to my assets from my business.
Yeah.
But then the living trust owns the LLC, and the living trust governs where assets are directed.
Okay, I see why you need an attorney for this. This is a strategy, not just a fill in the blank form.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, awesome. Let me ask you about the new Corporate Transparency Act. What is that, and what's that going to do for us?
Yeah, so what the Corporate Transparency Act is, it's a law that requires businesses to report information to the federal government. If you didn't do it, you were subject to very steep penalties, which could be $10,000 in fines and or up to 2 years in jail if it's willful. However, right now it's currently on pause. Ever since Trump took office in January, he and the Department of Treasury said that they're not going to enforce this law. So effectively, it's in limbo. It's on the books. And if a Democrat wins in 2028, it could come back.
It currently applies to foreign corporations. So if you're bringing a corporation from England into the U.S., you do have a filing requirement. And now New York State, starting in 2026, has its own Corporate Transparency Act. So if you have an entity in New York State, you're going to have to be filing similar information. But for the broad spectrum of America, private businesses do not have to file right now. But as Ted said, the law could come back.
Okay, very interesting. And I know that you, with your books and all of this, you guys do a lot of education. And I love that. Like I said, you're making sure people understand why they need you, and then they come to you. So tell us about your launching your YouTube channel.
Again, traveling the world with Robert Kiyosaki, I wrote all these books. This is called Loopholes of Real Estate. And writing the books and going around with Robert, teaching financial education, I learned that parents, they want to learn about financial matters, but they really want their kids to learn about financial matters. So as a public service, part of Corporate Direct, our company, we've launched Tenero. It's a YouTube channel, and Tener means to have, dinero means money. So we just combine the two words to Tenero, to have money. And we have financial education videos for adults and kids. We just launched the channel, but the reception has been great. And then Ted has his own book that he's working on for kids, and I'll let him tell about that.
That's right. So I have a YouTube channel too. He started it. It's the Corporate Direct YouTube channel. I started posting videos and shorts there a few times a week. definitely check out both. Tenero's more broad. It's more financial education. Corporate Direct's mainly business law and asset protection. But yeah, I'm working on a book, and the whole gist of it is that it's designed to simplify the law for middle and high school kids. Okay. And the best part is that it's narrated by a dog. And the dog's master's... Yeah, so the dog's a knowledgeable dog because his master's an attorney, and he goes into work with him every day, and he sits in a dog bed by his desk. Another thing is that the book comes with a card game where kids can reinforce the knowledge that they learned in the book. And so Greenback is the dog because knowledge is money. And so Greenback the Golden Doodle is the main character, and it's called Greenback's Book of Law. And so it's going to be released sometime next year. It's going to be great because there's a lot of kids out there who are not getting the legal knowledge that they need moving forward. And I've been working on this project for 2.5 years, and I really hope that it benefits all Americans who are ages 12 to 18 and maybe even older.
And the other thing, Carolyn, is they don't teach civics anymore in school. And
no, I was going to say, I didn't learn even how to balance a checkbook in high school. They wanted to teach us how to sew and cook, but not balance a checkbook.
And so this book, Ted's book, Greenback's Book of Law, talks about the U.S. Constitution and civics. And so it's the law of the land. And I think it's really important for kids now to understand our legal system and then to reinforce it with a card game. So you and 3 friends read the book, and then you sit around and play the card game and really reinforce these concepts.
That's a great idea.
Use forward.
That's an excellent idea. I love that. I know that my listeners may want to reach out to you or connect with you guys. Where can they connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, so they can go to corporatedirect.com. That's our homepage. We have a lot of resources there on corporate law and asset protection. We have a link to our free 15-minute consult page, as well as to our social media platforms on the bottom. Another place, as Dad mentioned, is that you can check out Tenero on YouTube. That's Tenero Official. And it has a logo with a green eagle on it. It has about 600 subscribers now, and we're looking forward to getting that up. But he'll be posting a lot of content there, too.
Yeah, we just launched it, but there's a lot of great content for kids and adults there.
I love that. We'll make sure that we have links to both of those in the show notes. And any last word or thing you'd like to say for the people listening, what you want them to take away from this?
Yeah, I think it's important to have a team member in your corner who can help you with all these legal issues. I think the audience is a lot of attorneys, and they would definitely agree with me there. I think especially we focus on corporate law. It's important, as Dad said, the prize is to specialize. And it's important to have people that you know who specialize in a different area, just because it could help you, your clients, and whoever else get the protection they need.
And so I would just say that parents out there, they want their kids to understand this. They realize the school system is not teaching it. And if you are interested, just check out Tenero at YouTube. It's a public service at Corporate Direct to make sure our kids are educated for the future. I just think that I'm not in love with the school system right now. And I think that parents need to take things into their own hands and make sure their kids are educated for the future.
Agreed. And you're doing good by teaching. So people do business with people who do good. I love that. Guys, thank you for being on the show. This has been very educational, and obviously I need more LLCs, so we're going to have to, but it's been great. I appreciate you.
We're here to help.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me today for this episode. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do 2 things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, you can connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take the next step with a digital strategist to help you grow your law firm, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to lawmarketingzone.com to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, thanks for listening to Leadership in Law Podcast, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Leadership in Law Podcast. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's a whole community of law firm owners out there facing similar challenges and striving for the same success. Head over to our website at lawmarketingzone.com. From there, connect with other listeners, access valuable resources, and stay up to date on the latest episodes. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Until next time, keep leading with vision and keep growing your firm.